Alright guys, so welcome to this live stream. Today again, as always, I will take a presentation first and basically talk about fungal issues today on today's live stream and about results of regrowing here after solving fungal problems and by adding minoxidil and micorneedling. And afterwards, I will check up the chat and see what questions you have been asking. And basically, if you have been having some questions about hair loss or as a case study that I will present now, then you can just add them in the chat and I will take up them later after the presentation. So, all right, let's get started. So, all right, so basically, this is a guy that I have been making few videos already in the past, short videos about his progression of the hair loss situation. And basically, when he reached out to me, what happened is that he was having fungal issues on his scalp. He was having dermatitis. There was itchiness on the scalp, there was flakiness on the scalp, and basically he was also having a lot of hair shedding. Right? And again, in this picture, you cannot quite see how bad it was, but you can see like some issues in the vertex area, right? And as well as mid-scalp part here, and also here hitting on this part here. But you can basically see more obviously what is going on in this picture here, basically. Right? Like you can see the color of the hair was different. Right? There was flakiness. The hair itself didn't look healthy, like they looked bristle, dry. Right? Those are basically typical signs of or dermatitis caused issues on the scalp. And again, like the difference between dermatitis and inflammation is that inflammation usually makes scalp red in color as well, right? Like for example, if there's microinflammation, then there is not so much redness. But if there is, for example, inflammatory problems on the scalp, like burning sensation, then the scalp is red in color, right? But in this guy case, he had dermatitis. And dermatitis is a bit different, right? But basically, you can see that still dermatitis did affect his color of his hair to become lighter in color, and it was kind of thinning in a strange diffuse pattern. Plus, the hair itself didn't look healthy. Plus, there was of course fungal issues from the flakiness. And again, this picture again shows you basically what was happening, and you can basically see in this picture here as well, right? Just to kind of illustrate it, like this area here. You can see basically it was thinning out, right? This area here, and the pattern was a bit strange, right? So this basically means that there is some underlying problems going on, right? And you can also see midsection was thinning out as well, right? All this area here. So, all right. And basically, I did make a video with him when I was applying minoxidil on his scalp, and you can also see those fungal flakes that was falling off as I was applying minoxidil. Because in this guy case, basically, since he is working with me directly, I was able to manage his scalp much faster than basically one usually can do it, right? Because I can see the problem and I know how to address it, right? And that's why he was able to start with minoxidil from the day one. Right? And usually we start with minoxidil later, like for example, after solving all the scalp problems, if there are issues, then we can start with minoxidil. But in this case, since he was working with me directly, then it is different. Like so, we were able to start with minoxidil right away, at the same time as we are addressing scalp problems, addressing fungal issues, and basically addressing those flakiness that was happening on his scalp. So, and this is basically his situation after 30 days. You can see nice improvement. Like there was still some flakiness, but you can also see structures here had improved a lot. Right? And I will talk more about how we did address the fungal issues and how we did address the dermatitis. So, but just to show you examples what happened basically during that time. So, and you can also see that gaps that he was having before, they started to fill a bit in already after 30 days of minoxidil application by solving online problems. Here again, picture from bird wave top part. You can see there is still a bit issues in the mid part after 30 days on the vertex, but the quality of the hair has improved a lot. This is important because it's indicators that things are going right direction. And again, other picture, again you can see midsection of the scalp still has diffuse thinning, but overall huge improvements after 30 days. And this is basically to compare to. You can see basically difference. The color of the hair, the structure of the hair, and also thickness of the hair itself. And interesting thing is also that I want to mention is that this guy didn't use Finasteride to address the problem. Basically, he addressed the underlying problems he was having, and those underlying problems was causing the hair loss in the first place. It was not DHT that was causing his hair loss, right? So there is kind of no point of taking finasteride if there is if it's like hair loss is not caused by either by genetics or by DHT. So all right, and to show you examples what happened afterwards, just reshare my screen. So basically this was day one when we started to work together, right? This is first day when we started to work on his online problems as well as growth stimulation in this guy case. This would happen after 30 days, as I showed before. This happened after 60 days. You can see it's a lot of improvement. And if you want to see more of 60-day results, then you can check out a few short videos that I made about 3 weeks ago, I think. You can search them up on the channel. And basically, I show his hair itself in a bit better lighting than this one here. But basically, what has happened next is that this is his 90th-day results. You can see basically a lot of regrowth activity after 3 months of applying minoxidil, and of course solving the online problems, right? Because again, he was applying minoxidil before he reached out to me, but it was not working, right? Because the scalp was not ready for minoxidil. He had to fix the scalp first with fungal issues, with dermatitis, address the hair cycle itself, because he was shedding a lot of hair as well because of those online problems. All right, and basically by doing so, he was able to have a nice recovery. And here is just basically kind of example of what happened from day 1 to day 90. You can see fullness of his basically top part, also vertex on the temples hairline, right? Very nice improvement compared to where it was. Right, and tomorrow I will meet him again, so I will make a short video about this situation and show a bit more how his hair actually looks like more closed up, right? You can basically clearly see already here that things has improved a lot since he started to address online problems. Because we must remember that, for example, if there are online problems, then minoxidil will become much less effective, right? So basically, if one is having some kind of online problems and one wants to get as much out of minoxidil as possible, then one has to address those online problems, right? Because those online problems just will block results from minoxidil. It will make micorneedling much less effective, and basically there also will most likely be increased or additional hair shedding that could be avoided if one was having a healthy scalp environment. So this is basically his 90-day results, like I said previously. And just to kind of recap what happened, like basically when we started to work together, he was having fungal issues, right? And so the way we addressed fungal issues was basically by addressing stress factors, right? Because the stress is a trigger for the skin, so it has to be addressed, and it also can affect the fungal activity. We had to address his diet, right? Basically, we had to remove the trigger foods he was having in his diet. And those trigger foods basically was, in his case, it was white sugar, that is quite common things that causes fungal activity to increase, but also we had to cut off the coffee because it's also not optimal for basically fungal activity, because again it kind of causes the fungus multiplies. And we had to address also fats in his diet, because again unhealthy fats, they can affect fungal activity, right? That doesn't mean that you should cut on healthy fats, right? Healthy fats are important for the skin, because if you have a healthy fatty acids, they will make skin more healthy, they will help with the inflammatory problems, but you have to basically address unhealthy fats, right? Or on fat foods as well, right? With unhealthy fats. So basically by doing those things, plus by having antifungal kind of agents, like in his case, this guy case, we basically did use selsun on his scalp to address fungal problems. Again, keto is other, or ketoconazole is other way to address it, but for him we did selsun. And then basically when we have addressed and rebalanced his scalp environment and addressed his hair cycle itself by basically working on improving his lifestyle, improving basically optimizing other areas like getting enough workouts and having enough sleep and so on, he was able to have a good recovery of the scalp environment. As I already showed, just in 30 days, he was basically able to get from this situation here to this one here, just by optimizing everything and improving his diet. Major improvement for such short time. And basically what happened next is that since his scalp was not healthy, he was able to start with minoxidil, and we didn't start with micorneedling until day 30, because I wanted to be sure that his scalp was in right state, and also that he was able to sustain a healthy scalp, so he didn't fall back again on the old habits, and basically possibly again would have some kind of issues on his scalp. So we had to be sure the scalp was healthy. And after 30 days, when I was sure that he was able to manage the problems, I recommended him to add micorneedling. Those results here after 60 days or 90 days is basically because of micorneedling as well. Because minoxidil by itself usually is not that effective. I have showed before my pictures when I just did minoxidil on all over the scalp, but I did micorneedling in my temples and hairline, but I didn't do in the crown or vertex area. So the vertex was not improving, but crown and but temples and hairline was improving a lot because of micorneedling. All right. So yes. So basically, what happened is that he doesn't have any shedding anymore. His shedding is under control. No scalp problems, and you can also see that scalp looks clean. No dandruff, no fungal issues anymore, right? So basically, this all was achieved just in 3 months or 90 days. And again, I will keep basically track his progress for 3 more months, because we have agreed to continue for 6 months in total. So he already have done first 3 months, so there's 3 more months left, and basically it will be very interesting what kind of results he will be able to get in upcoming months. And again, I will share his results and basically make more short videos about his progression, so you actually can see how nicely one can improve even underlying problems are solved. And again, what is important to understand in this guy case as well is that it's not always DHT that is causing problem. Right? We have to figure out what is actually main cause here. But in this guy case, it was not DHT, and basically by solving the problems that actually were causing his hair loss, he was having awesome recovery. So, all right, guys, that was basically all for presentation today. We'll check up, basically chat messages that we've been writing them. All right, guys. So basically, first question is about diffused pattern alopecia. And again, diffused pattern or diffused hair loss was something I was having myself when I was losing my hair. And just to kind of recap for you guys, if you haven't followed my channel before, this is basically my situation when I was having this issue. 1 second. So this is basically my situation with the diffused alopecia, right? And you can see that I still had a hair, right, but they were falling out rapidly in a diffuse pattern, right? And basically, why those things happen is that basically I had underlying problems as well, right? And the underlying problems often is additional factors that cause that hair are falling out in diffuse pattern, like not regular pattern, but diffuse pattern. Like I had that time, I had a DHT problem, but also my lifestyle was not optimal at all, right? So basically, what happened is that when I started to see first results from taking Finasteride, I started to improve my lifestyle as well, because I kind of knew that I had to do those things because I already felt that I was getting good effect from Finasteride, but I knew that if I didn't improve rest of my lifestyle, the results wouldn't be as good as it should. So basically, when it comes to diffused pattern, what we need to be aware of is that it can be caused, for example, by nutrition deficiencies, by poor diet, for example, if the diet is lacking nutrients, or have a trigger foods, for example. Those things definitely can affect diffuse thinning, and stress as well can affect diffuse thinning. Then if you want to know more about diffuse thinning patterns, that I do have a few live streams that I made previously about how I was basically addressing my nutritional deficiencies. For example, I had at one point vitamin D deficiency, and the way I did address it was basically by taking vitamin D supplements, right? And like it was a prescribed vitamin D supplement that this has a more of vitamin D's and regular amount one can buy without prescription. And other things that I did basically was that I also added foods that were rich in vitamin D, right? Like for example, tuna fish, salmon, and I also exposed myself much more to the sunlight, because back then when I was having diffuse thinning, because of vitamin D deficiencies, I was working kind of in the place where there was a limited amount of sun, so I didn't get enough sunlight. Plus, I also was not outside that much during the day. Right? Basically, I was just driving to the workplace with the car or going to university, right? So I didn't get so much sunlight either. So because of it, I was having the vitamin D deficiencies, and it affected and caused my hair loss. So again, if you are having diffuse thinning, check out the underlying problems, right? Your diet, possible stress, possible deficiencies, right? Those are typical factors that can cause it. And fungal issues as well, right? Our microinflammation, or like if it affects just specific area, for example, it can also be something that can amplify diffuse thinning. So, question from Sebastian about what should I do when I'm minoxidil irritating my scalp? Like, again, you have to be sure that it is actually minoxidil that is irritating your scalp, right? And other things that you need to check up is that if you are removing the flakes from minoxidil, right? Because what happens when you apply minoxidil is that it's over time builds up flakes on your scalp, and if you don't remove those flakes, then it will cause irritation, right? So make sure that you do remove those flakes. And again, I have spoken about this issue in previous live streams and also in a couple of videos. But basically, the way I remove flakes is by brushing. Right? And if it still doesn't work, if you still have itchiness, and basically switching to different formulation, for example, like foam or something of minoxidil, then it is also options to address it. So, question about basically temper recovery, but it doesn't recover fully. Like again, regrowth is something that takes time, right? So basically, if the hair loss has been going on for, let's say, 1 or 2 years, then it will take a bit time to recover those temples as well, right? For example, for me to recover temples, it did take almost 15 months. So basically, it kind of depends on your situation, how much damage there has been done, and how much you need to recover. Right? Basically, if you are seeing improvements, then basically stick to the treatment and continue a visit. This is important because again, those little hairs, so vellus hairs, if they are, but basically they are kind of signs that things are going in the right direction. You basically have to stick to the treatment, have to follow the plan, and you most likely will see more and more results. Yes, I see that Sergey talks about the Finasteride, and that is much more effective than Finasteride. Yes, again, it really depends on the DHT sensitivity one is having, and again, for me, I have tried both of them. I tried Finasteride and I have tried Finasteride. Both of them did work, but I still prefer Finasteride because, first of all, it doesn't stay that long in the system, right? And also, Finasteride is much easier to get, for example, and I have had basically very good results with it, right? And plus, it's much easier to microdose it. So I personally prefer Finasteride, but again, the Finasteride is the option. If one is, for example, more sensitive to DHT, or have to basically block more of it. And yes, like if it works for you, guys, that's awesome. So, all right. Flooring failure says that you made a comment about diet is important. Cut out trigger foods. When my diet is bad, treatment stopped working. And I cut all the processed foods, and here going back again. Yes, definitely, right? Because diet is something that affects, like it has a multiple effects, indirect and direct effects. It can affect basically our overall well-being. It can affect, for example, our stress levels, but it also can be triggers, and it can also cause inflammation, right? So and fungal activity as well to increase. So having a healthy diet is very important, right? And especially cutting out the processed foods, cutting out processed meats, for example, so this full of hormones, for example, is definitely not helpful when we are dealing with the hair loss, right? So basically having clean and healthy diet, and that is well balanced as well, right? We want to also have a balanced diet is important, right? Because if you are basically having it or structured correctly, you can basically remove possibility of inflammatory problems in your scalp, plus also help to reduce fungal activity. Deva asks about, is it possible to bring back my hair or hair transplant hair? Yes, most likely it is, but again, you have to work on what is actually causing your hair loss, right? For most guys, it will be DHT that's causing hair loss, but again, it can happen in a combination with microinflammation, it can happen in combination with dermatitis, fungal issues. So you have to basically work on to finding out what is actually main cause of your hair loss, why you're actually losing hair in the first place. And by doing so, you basically can bring them back as long as there hasn't been gone too long time between the time you actually had here to the current state. So, Joseph asks about would microneedling daily on minoxidil here be beneficial? Yes, I would say so. Like again, I do minoxidil or I do microneedling to increase absorption of minoxidil. That's the kind of my proposal I'm doing. It's not because I want to stimulate hair growth with just microneedling, but I actually do it in combination with minoxidil. So basically, if you are just doing microneedling by itself, then I would say it will most likely have a limited effect. But if you are doing it for observation of topical, either minoxidil or some other growth stimulant, then it is beneficial to do it on minerals here because they will grow back or become thicker and fuller if you have addressed online problems. The question about from Smith is about for the fungal problems in the case studies that I showed, if he did just apply salesman shampoo, like he did solve his diet, right? Because again, shampoo is just something that will help to address the problem at the moment when applies it, and possibly 3 days afterwards. So you have to work on online causes. Like if the cause is basically stress, if the cause is, for example, stress and diet or just diet, for example, then basically you have to address them, because if you just rely on shampoo, what will happen is that you wash your scalp, it will feel a bit better, but then after 2-3 days, the problem will appear again, right? And then you will have to re-continue with the shampoo forever. And basically what will happen is that it will dry out the hair, it will dry out the scalp, and the hair, like for example, if there is dermatitis, then basically that dermatitis will get much worse, right? So you have to work on the underlying problems why you are having actually those fungal issues in the first place. You have to find the root cause of it, and you have to solve it. That's the way you address this problem, not by addressing just by topical shampoo or steroid cream or staining lotion. Like those things have a good effect, but they have limitations, right? If the underlying problem is not addressed, then the problem will reappear and you will never be able to kind of get a control over the scalp environment. Is minoxidil 10% more effective than 5%? Your doctor prescribed you 10%. For most guys, 5% is much like sufficient enough, right? There is no need to use 10% because 10% most likely have a more harsh formulation. There is higher chance of side effects, and I personally have been able to gain back my hair with 5%. And guys in my program, in for example, 98% time are using 5%. I have had a few guys who have used stronger versions, but it's not necessary unless one is having very aggressive hair loss or have had a very aggressive hair loss that has caused a lot of basically baldness that has to be addressed and recovered. So, question about from Joseph: can I use ketoconazole shampoo immediately after microneedling? I don't think it's a good idea to mix them. So, like when I, for example, use antifungal agent shampoos like ketoconazole, I may also skip microneedling on that day. I don't want to increase absorption of it. And plus, I also do deep cleaning shampoos before microneedling, not afterwards. Question from Adam: can I use minoxidil and liquid finasteride at the same time? Yes, as long as you don't have side effects, it shouldn't be a problem. Because there are formulations that has a finasteride and minoxidil in them as well. But I personally prefer to separate them, because again, when you separate them, basically, like for example, if you are doing microneedling and you apply topical finasteride afterwards, then it will increase absorption of it, right? And it can be a problem regarding side effects. So I would, like, if you are concerned about side effects, or if you're doing microneedling, then doing it separate times will be better. But if you are just applying minoxidil and finasteride without microneedling, then it's fine. It doesn't matter. So, question about: can you give some tips for skin irritation inflammation? Yes, basically, again, you have to work on your diet. That is important. Have to work on your stress levels. And you have to basically, like I said, have talked about before in my videos, is that we have to have two types of shampoos in when you're addressing this problem. We want to have a deep cleaning shampoo that is actually addressing underlying problems, and then we want to have a light everyday shampoo. Like for example, light everyday shampoos that is aloe vera based, for example, could be option depending on your skin type and your problems that is happening in your scalp. Because again, if we are using very harsh products all the time, it will affect our skin, affect our hair, and cause additional problems. Right? So we have to have a good balance between what topicals we're applying on the scalp from your own skin type, rather than a problem you're addressing. So basically, to address irritation, inflammation, find out what is the root cause. Again, the root cause is usually either by diet. So if it's by diet, then you need to remove the trigger foods. You don't need to do some detoxification, right? Possibly some cleansing as well, depending on the type of inflammation. And if the problem is still not going away, then you need to address your scalp environment as well, right? Possibly clean up your scalp. If there are flakes, you need to do some brushing, possibly, right? So you need to address those things. Question from Smith about, was this guy shedding also high in the beginning? Yes, he had a lot of hair shedding. Like, for example, when I applied minoxidil in his scalp, what happened is that basically I was applying it, and then I did see a lot of hairs in my hands afterwards. So it was wild, but now he doesn't have any shedding at all. So, and tomorrow when I make a new short video with him, I basically will show how his hair shed is now. And I also will show how his scalp looks more closed up, plus his regrow results so far, so after 90 days. So it will be interesting to see. All right, guys, I will end for today. Okay, I can take one last question before we end today. And it is basically about Finasteride from Sub-Zero. And it is about how long to wait to see the effect from Finasteride. You have been using it for 3 months, and here are still falling between 30 and 40 hairs a day. Again, like if you have been using it for 3-4 months and there is no difference in shedding, and the hair are still, or hair loss still progresses, that basically means that there is something wrong besides DHT. Right? You can of course check up your serum DHT levels to check up if they are actually in the low range. But the other possibility is that there are underlying problems that's happening, or your hair cycle itself is too weak, so you need to strengthen your hair cycle to actually make it stronger. So, but anyway, in any case, you need to figure it out, because being on Finasteride for 3 to 4 months without reduction in hair shedding is usually a red flag. It usually means that there is some kind of issues. All right, guys, I will end for today. Here is a link for you who want to basically have a call with me to check out my program. I had it here in the chat as well. Yes, thanks for attending for today's live stream, and we speak soon next time. Have a nice